I'm Sarah Evans. I do a lot of work with OpenSSF and have created, in partnership with the AI/ML working group, something that taps into the knowledge that we have about DevOps and DevSecOps and rolls it forward to this new world of AI applications that's built on machine learning. So let's jump in. So this white paper is available on the OpenSSF website. One of the pieces of feedback that I got is it's very thorough. So it kind of walks us through what do we know about DevOps today and what do we need to evolve to understand about MLOps. Some folks, when I said, hey, will you review this for me while we were editing it, were surprised at the length. But one of the things I want to call out right at the beginning, and we'll talk about this a little bit, is that it's a layer-by-layer approach that takes you from something that you know to something that you'll know at the end. And you don't want to skip around. You want to kind of move through all the figures and the images as they build on each other. So we'll also talk about, as we were working in OpenSSF on the types of people who might be in DevOps and start needing to do MLOps. And so that is also really well documented in the paper. So who should read this? This is going to be a really great tool for you or people that you know on your teams. A lot of people who are doing DevOps, you're familiar with that, this is going to be a great starting point for you. If you're working in OSPO teams, if you're working with open source projects, this is also a really great educational tool. I'm hearing a lot of those types of teams are being asked to kind of help be a bridge to AI and people who are working with AI in their space. Security teams. So within most enterprises, you have security teams who are working on like cybersecurity proper, making sure you have identity management platforms in place, doing governance, risk, and compliance as example. And then depending on what your company is, you also have product security teams that are consuming and producing software bills of materials, and they're thinking about attestations underneath, so they have the supply chain focus. A lot of them, their spidey senses in security are very well tuned to software. They're a little less confident on the machine learning side. So this is a really good resource if you're working with someone in security who maybe needs to build and up-level their skill in machine learning operations, so they can partner with you as you're developing AI apps. And then also, we found that there's a lot of people building AI who maybe haven't had their, what I like to call, shift security left moment. And so putting together versioned, configured applications that scale, that we can do vulnerability response to, that ops part. You may be working with data scientists, folks who are very skilled AI ML engineers, but they might need to learn some of those DevOps lessons that we've learned and how those apply to them. So inside, you're going to find a lot of really good stuff. I mentioned the visual models. One of the approaches that we took was to bring in threats and map those threats to security tools, so you'll see those. We really referenced a lot of tools you've already heard of today, and we've been talking about all day long. SigStore, Salsa, and these have real-world recommendations, and it has an end-to-end approach. Anytime you're working with lifecycle, with machine learning lifecycles, pulling them into your AI apps, this is when you're going to want to use the machine learning lifecycle, or MLSecOps. And it can apply to any point. So some people will find that they're experts in working with data sets, or maybe they work with models or fine-tuning models. Maybe they're deploying things or putting them into applications. There's something in this for everyone. What I found is before we've really figured out how to secure generative AI, now we have agentic AI. We're always evolving. The technology is always being disrupted. I spent a lot of time in OpenSSF talking to developers about how to secure software development, and I noticed that a lot of the innovation around AI and AI agents are happening around the Linux Foundation in different places, maybe in CNCF, maybe over in digital identity and trust, and other places as well. And so one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is, do we need, we have a security foundation, OpenSSF, in the Linux Foundation, and do we really want these conversations about security that are happening here, there, and everywhere naturally to have a convergence point? Or do we need to come up with a separate security foundation just for AI? And I'm kind of on the camp that we need to converge, because AI is being built on the software systems that we already know and use. So we don't need to recreate something new. We need to understand and build on the stable space that we have and move forward. So let's dive into the paper. About a year and a half ago, I was having this idea that, okay, DevOps, DevSecOps, let's do MLOps, MLSecOps. So Googled, didn't even use ChatGPT. I Googled MLSecOps, and I couldn't really find anything. A couple links down, there's this paper from Ericsson that said, MLSecOps for the telco environment. And I was like, well, I'm kind of looking for an industry-wide resource, but telco, I'll take it. And down on like page 3 of their white paper was this guide. And I'm like, this is fantastic. I wanted to work with the Ericsson team that put a lot of great work into their white paper to up-level this to an OpenSSF resource. So my company Dell and Ericsson are both participating in OpenSSF, did a little bit of leveraging their members to find the authors of this. They were very open to the idea, and so we started collaborating together. And we started out with the infinity loop. So you have this idea that you go from dev to DevOps, and we started to say, well, you're bringing in data, you're bringing in machine learning models. So you have data, models, and deploy with code. How are we needing to evolve the way we think about that infinity loop? And on the right side, you see like this second wheel around it. The second wheel is the proposed infinity loop, or this process by Ericsson. So we needed a way to think about the stages of the infinity loop, but map them out to a reference architecture, because they're not exactly one for one. So this is where we started, was with the infinity loop and the stages. And then I worked with a developer on my team, and I know it's really kind of, the contrast is not very good up on the screen, but on the left side, I said, can you take the infinity loop arrows that we just saw on the previous slide and unwrap them and start to kind of get them to flow out so that we can layer this reference architecture over it. So you can see what parts of the reference architecture are in the machine learning part, where's your data wheel, and then where's your ops wheel. So in the white paper, this you can like zoom in on it, sit in front of it, kind of explore some of the more nuanced detail that I can't really show very well on the slide, but it's all documented in the PDF. Something else that we learned was in that Ericsson white paper, there were personas. Hey, your data engineer is going to be responsible for this. Your machine learning engineer is going to be responsible for this. And I was like, great. We had this effort called the tool belt, where we had been mapping out in OpenSSF, who are the personas that we work with? Who are the people that our organization serves? And so I went to find the data scientist. I went to find the ML engineer. I went to find, the people who are working with GRC, and I didn't see them. And so we said, you know what, open source. I have this colleague who's always saying patches welcome. So I said, we need to update this tool belt to be inclusive of the roles that we're starting to see in machine learning now. And so we've added those. The next thing we did is we don't love to reinvent the wheel. So we said, hey, we want to map our reference architecture to threats. Guess who has done a really good job in the open source community of defining threats? OWASP. OWASP has a top 10 for ML, and they have a top 10 for LLMs. We wanted to kind of keep this as foundational as possible, so we leveraged their top 10 for ML, and we layered them on with those red dots to say where in this reference architecture are you going to see the types of threats that come out in the OWASP top 10. Now we have threats, we have a reference architecture, but there's hope. We have security controls, but where might those security controls exist in your process? That's the next layer that you're looking at, which is the addition of the green boxes, which layer in where you want to have either automated or manual security controls. In security, we know it's all about people, process, and technology. So we've talked about personas. We've talked about the technology itself, And so these green boxes are kind of touching on some of the processes that you need to have in place. And this is the final layer. It's a lot. This is why I say don't just scroll to the bottom of the PDF and just be like, all right, I got this. We wanted this to be like the main key takeaway, but we knew we couldn't just throw this in a PDF and walk away because we'd lose people. We needed that chance to kind of think through, what do we know about DevOps? What do we know about CI/CD processes? What do we know about personas? How can we bring people in on a reference architecture? Or we're leveraging threats and we're meeting people where they are and bringing them forward to what it takes to secure a machine learning lifecycle. So at the bottom right, we have different colored stars where that blue star represents salsa. We have all star represented with the yellow star. Scorecard is in green, SigStore is in light blue, and guac is in red. I want to take a minute to kind of talk about something interesting about SigStore. So SigStore, right about the time that we were getting ready to publish this, they worked on something called the OpenSSF Model Signing Schema, or OMS, which was the ability to take this concept of signing code and then verifying it before you deploy it to being able to sign a model. So SigStore, there's other ways, methodologies in addition to SigStore. You can have your own HSA internally, you can leverage PKI, but some of these pieces plug in. So now you can work and coordinate with some of your security teams, and you can start to advocate for where do we need to start to add additional controls. A lot of the security teams that I've been talking to understand that AI is different than software, but just how different do the tools need to be? So at a minimum, they're applying some of the same controls to machine learning systems that they do to software, which is good, but there are some nuances and some things that are going to evolve and change. And so this is our starting point tool through OpenSSF, or the final layer to understanding MLSecOps. So I threw a lot of information here. We went through it really fast. We've got plenty of time for questions if we want to have questions, or I can hang out. We can just do side questions. But this was my highlight. So I know we have more time, but that's the end of my presentation for today. Woo! Thank you. All right, we do have a mic. If anyone wants to come to the middle, ask a question, or if you holler it out, I can repeat it. Yes. Oh, there's two of you. You're right in a row, so if I'm pointing at one. So Lori, if you want to go first.
I came in a couple minutes late. You said there's a paper?
Yes. Yep. And I think I have the QR code for the paper. Yep. So so it's like 40 pages, but it goes through pretty much everything we talked about. Yep. And then right behind you, I'm sorry, Same question. Okay, excellent. All right, yes, sir.
Any thoughts on potentially adding like MITRE Atlas framework or any other form of security controls besides OWASP opt-in?
That's a really good question as well. One of the things that we were excited to do was to create it, get a version 1 out, and then kind of champion it. But we definitely are open to evolving it. So within the AI/ML working group in OpenSSF, that's where we're going to take feedback through issues on what we need to evolve. There is a special interest group right now. Frederick Kautz did a talk just a little bit earlier where he's leveraging the MITRE ATT&CK framework and mapping it to agentic protocol MCP. And so we're starting to kind of think about strategically in OpenSSF, how do we take those lessons that we want to share with developers and extend them to other communities and being more inclusive of those. MITRE, I think, would really help because there's a lot of teams who really trigger and automate off MITRE, so it's a great idea. But right now, we don't have active plans to do it, but open members and engagement from the community could help drive that.
Patches welcome.
And then that person that always says, "Patches welcome," whispered in my ear like a little bird, "Patches welcome." Yeah, we'd love to see you there to engage. All right. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Google's reference architecture for MLOps.
Yes. Yes. And actually, we have the chairs of the ML or the AI ML working group. One of them is on that Google supply chain team, so they were engaged in this. It's a great document. Yeah. I think we may have referenced it, but we built off the Ericsson one. So, yeah. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you all. Everyone have a great rest of your conference.